to my channel. So for today's video, I'm gonna be filming my top 10 favorite eyeshadow palettes. This video has been requested from you guys for a little while now, and I thought I would finally just sit down and talk about all of my favorite eyeshadow palettes. These are like my favorite eyeshadow palettes in general. It's not just like ColourPop palettes, although a lot of these palettes are ColourPop palettes, but there are other brands in here as well. So it's just generally my top 10 favorite eyeshadow palettes, and I kind of want to do more of these like top 10 favorites. I did a top 10 of my luxe lipsticks. So if there's like another category that you guys want me to do like a top 10 video on, be sure to let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to film that for you guys if I do have a top 10 for that category. I feel like this video is going to be quite long, so let's just go ahead and get started. So my number one spot, my all-time favorite eyeshadow palette has to be the ColourPop Give It To Me Straight palette. Not only is this my favorite ColourPop eyeshadow palette, this is my favorite palette in general. It's the palette that I use every single day, whether I just use one shadow from it or I'm using a couple shadows from it. So this is like their typical eyeshadow palette. You'll see a variety of eyeshadow palettes from ColourPop in this video, but this is like typically their pressed powder formula and how it would usually look like. It would come in a 12 pan palette. No matter what eye look I'm doing, I will always set down my concealer, and my concealer is my eye primer. Always set it down with matter of fact. So whether I'm going in with this palette or not, I will always take matter of fact and just use that to set down my eye base. This palette is in my top drawer. It's easy access, like just slide it out, use the shade, blah blah blah. Like the other palettes that are in my top drawer don't have like a white like this. It's not even like a stark white, it's more of like a creamy white. And then I like how you can also use the berry tones in here as well. Everything is pigmented, it blends out easily, there's no patchiness whatsoever. I don't do makeup on other people anymore, but I maybe a couple months ago, I did my cousin's graduation makeup. Like, I have so many palettes, guys. I think my palette drawer is like one of my biggest drawers. Like, that's the thing that I collect the most is eyeshadow palettes. The palette that I chose to do her eye makeup was Give It To Me Straight. It's the palette that I feel most comfortable with. I just know it will look good on everyone. No matter what eye shape, the looks you can create are just endless. It's just my favorite palette, and I feel like I can't talk more good things about it. The best in my opinion, and you never know, maybe this time next year my opinion will change. Maybe something else will take the first place, but as of right now and more recently, Give It To Me Straight is my favorite palette. My next favorite palette is also from ColourPop. This is the Double Entendre palette. This was my favorite palette until Give It To Me Straight came. I was honestly torn between the two because they are both great staple everyday palettes, but I just find myself reaching for these shades in Give It To Me Straight a little bit more than Double Entendre. But Double Entendre is probably the second palette that I use the most. As you can see, it's just stunning. If you guys are familiar with Yes Please, and Yes Please will show up in this list, but Yes Please is more like the young crazy sister, and Double Entendre is more of like the older mature sister. I just love the tones in here. Everything is very warm, very cohesive, but it's like a warm where it's not in your face. It's not very loud and like summery. Yes Please is very warm, loud, and summery. It's just shades that you can fall back on, and I love ColourPop's formula, so Double Entendre is my second favorite. And for my third place is another ColourPop palette. Do you guys hate me for mentioning ColourPop so much? And by the way, on my eyes today, I'm not wearing any of these palettes. I'm actually wearing the Good Sport palette from ColourPop. This is one of the looks for my review for that palette, so I just thought I would mention that. Anyway, my third favorite palette is the Perception palette. This is in collaboration with makeupshayla, so I assume that this would be limited edition, so if you guys like want to get it, maybe you should get it now while it's like still available. This is a little bit bigger than the original ColourPop palettes. This one has 4 extra shades, making it 16, and also it does have a mirror, so it's a little bit more expensive than the 12 pan palettes. The reason why I love this palette so much is because of the looks that you can create. Well, you literally have like almost everything in this one compact palette. I just love the tones in here, and I love the transition shades. I always go back to these transition shades. These 3 palettes, my top 3, are the 3 palettes that I keep right on top of my vanity. When I do my makeup every day, when I pull out my drawer, these are the 3 palettes that I have on hand. If you guys are even wondering about my top 3 ColourPop palettes, here you go. Now my fourth favorite palette is not a ColourPop palette. It is the original Jaclyn Hill palette with Morphe brushes. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with this. I've done so many videos with this palette, and I recently just did the whole Vault collection. I love the Vault collection, but that was more of like a recent purchase. I fall back on this palette so many times as well, especially when I'm creating more, I guess, unique looks, if I'm cosplaying, or I use this a lot for my NYX Face Awards looks as well. I think if you're a working makeup artist, this is a palette I definitely think you should have. I think the variety, you just have almost everything in here that you need. I think Morphe's formula is also very easy to work with as well. I do find ColourPop like just a touch easier to work with, but nonetheless, Morphe's ones is amazing as well. It's a little bit more pricey than ColourPop in my opinion, especially if you're considering the shipping rates, because with ColourPop, if you do spend over $50 internationally, you do get free shipping. With Morphe, no matter how much you spend, you don't get free shipping. You can just tell that I love this palette. You can see how beat up it is, how dirty it is. I've had this for over a year and it's still going me strong. I would travel with this, but it's just like too big of a palette for me to travel with personally. Okay, moving along, halfway mark. My number 5 palette is the ColourPop Yes Please palette. At one point in time, this was my number 1 palette. I believe this was like the first pressed powder palette that ColourPop came out with, and it was my number 1 favorite. And can you guys tell? I did hit pan on one of these shadows. A lot of these shadows are really dented. I've used this for like Halloween looks, cosplay looks, everyday looks, just tutorials. To most people, this would probably be the number 1 palette, but for me personally, to use this like on an everyday basis, I just think it's a little bit too loud and too vibrant, and that's not the look that I'm going for every day. I mean, if you are, that's perfectly cool, but for me, for everyday basis, I don't really want to have like loud eyeshadows, but when I do want it, this is the palette I'm going for. The tones in here, it just screams out summer. I've used every single shade. I think every single shade in here is important, is beautiful, it works, and I just love Yes Please. I think it's a cult favorite. I think it's their number 1 selling palette. Okay, and then my 6th palette is the Juvia's Pace Nubian palette. Also, at one point in time, this probably was like my 2nd favorite palette or my 1st favorite palette. This is the palette that took with me to Japan last year. A lot of things have released since that time last year, and this has bumped down a little bit on the list. Being like 100% like transparent and honest here, I probably haven't used this year. In 2018, and you guys would be like, why even mentioning it then if you haven't even used it this year? I don't wear makeup when I don't film. If I'm not filming, I'm barefaced, okay? If I'm going out, I'm barefaced. I only film 3 times a week on my days off when I don't have work. I don't wear makeup to work. You kind of get the drift that I'm going on here. Every time when I'm filming, I have a new palette to review, to do 3 demo looks on. I'm always trying something out. That most of the time, I don't wear my holy grail products when I do my makeup. I'm trying something new. I'm doing it for a review, something like that. So that is like the main reason why I haven't picked up Juvia's Place, but it is one of my favorite palettes. Like when I was going through all of my palettes, like I knew I had to mention Juvia's Place because first, the formula is amazing. I really want to try out more Juvia's Place eyeshadow palettes, so let me know which palette you want me to review from Juvia's Place next. I want to do like an updated video on this because when I did my review on this last year, I only did 1 demo for it, and I want to do another 3 looks with this palette and show it some more love, the love that it deserves. It's just a really well thought out palette. The mattes in here are amazing, works great. I think it looks great on my skin tone, and the shimmers, everything just works. There's enough mattes, there's enough shimmers to create multiple looks. Although I haven't played with it this much this year, if I wore makeup every day this year, then I probably would have played with it a lot more. Nubian Place has to be my 7th, 6th, what number am I on? I'm on 6. This is my 6th palette that I love the most. Now we're moving along to my number 7th place, and that is going to be the ColourPop Dream Street palette with kathleenlights. I love the tones in here, and I wish I would use this palette more. It's kind of me going back to the same thing again where I don't have that many days where I do wear makeup, and when I do, I am reviewing something else, and I would love to wear this palette more, but you can see it's like a little beat up, it's a little bit dirty. I think these 2 medium shades in here are beautiful, and it goes so nicely with the blues, and I love this rose gold. If I could create a rose gold, I would create like a rose gold like the one in Dream Street. I just think the tones in here, everything looks cohesive. You can use it in conjunction with other palettes, like her Zodiac palette, which is not in my top 10, but you could use it with Zodiac or any other palette, honestly. So now I only have 3 more palettes to share with you guys, but these top 7 palettes that I just mentioned are actually my top 7. The next 3 are not really like my top favorites. Like, I like them, but pretty much I only like them for like one certain shade or a couple certain shades in these palettes. I didn't want to name this video top 7 palettes. I wanted to be like clean and do it top 10. So I tried to find other palettes that I thought were worthy enough to be in like my top 10. I do like these palettes, but it's like a different kind of liking compared to my top 7. So yeah, let's dive right in with number 8. And that will have to be the ColourPop Ma palette. So this is like another formation of ColourPop's eyeshadows. So this is their 9 pan. It does come with a mirror and it's in a plastic packaging, so it's a little bit different, and I believe it's cheaper. I mean, it should be cheaper. The reason why I love this palette so much is because of the blues. I think, you know, all the other warm tones are beautiful. They work perfectly fine, nothing wrong with that, but they are shades that you probably already have in your collection, or you could find it in one of my top 7 palettes. This row here, diagonal, these blues, you see these blues, especially this one in the middle. I would pay $12 for that one eyeshadow. I really would. I normally don't wear blue eyeshadows on the everyday, but after reviewing this palette, I picked up this blue again and played with it, and I loved it. And I think for the price, you can't beat it. I know there are like brands like Sugar Pill and what are those like fun, like Mountain Cosmetics. I know there are brands like that that have really crazy, unique, fun shades, but those brands are a little bit more expensive, and when you live internationally and it's hard to find a site that actually ships to New Zealand for a good rate, ColourPop honestly does a really great job, and these 3 blues are stunning, and I highly recommend you check out the Ma palette if you want some blues, okay? Okay, and for my 9th palette will have to be the Zoeva Caramel Melange palette. This is probably the most expensive palette of them all. It's definitely more on the medium, almost high-end side. Zoeva is a little bit more expensive, but you feel that in the palette. You don't feel like this is like a cheap palette. I'm not saying ColourPop's packaging or Morphe's packaging or Juvia's Place packaging is cheap. You do feel like this one's a little bit more higher quality, it's more luxe, and just the packaging and everything about it's a little bit more nicer, and the way it's sent to you as well when you order online, it's like beautiful packaged, so you are getting what you pay for is what I'm trying to say. But the reason why I love this palette so much is for this shade here called Wax Paper. You guys might think like, wow, just one shade. I don't own a stark white like this white, and it doesn't even look that stark white on camera. I'm pretty sure there is other stark white eyeshadows in the market. I'm sure there is, but in my collection, this is the most white eyeshadow you can get. And when you want to do like a really pretty matte smoky eye, and you want to put this in the inner corner of your eye or cut crease, take that gold and replace it with that white. That will look stunning, like an all matte cut crease. It's just comes so handy, like especially with Halloween makeup. When you want to set down your white face paint or something like that, you can use this to set it down. I do love the other shadows in here. I have picked up this palette a couple times after I've done my review, and that's how I really know. You know, sometimes I do reviews on palettes and like I do them and I never touch the palette like ever again. But if I pick it up once or twice, it really does mean something. I don't know if you guys are surprised, or you might not be, that I'm not mentioning like Anastasia, Mono Renaissance, or Subculture, because honestly, I do like those palettes and I like the looks that I created for those palettes when I did my reviews on them. After I do my reviews on them, I don't pick those palettes up, like, ever. That's how I kind of determine if I like a palette. It's like, do I pick it up after I did my review on it? If I did, that means I liked it, like truly liked it. Okay, and my last and final palette, this is gonna round up my top 10. It's going to be the ColourPop Fortune palette. So this is the same size as the Perception palette. I feel like this is kind of like the extended version of Give It To Me Straight. There are warm shadows in here and also very toned shadows in here. Although these colors are just so generic, and we've seen this done before. We've seen this done before from ColourPop. Like, we don't even have to go and explore other brands. Like, we've seen ColourPop do these shadows so many times, but I just think having it all in one palette that you can get warm shadows, berry looks, I think just it's a really good palette to have, and I think if you don't have a lot of palettes in this color scheme, I think it's a really nice palette to have on hand. Okay, so that was all of my top 10 favorite eyeshadow palettes. Be sure to let me know in the comments down below what are some of your favorite eyeshadow palettes. It doesn't have to be a top 10, it could be like a top 3, or if any of the palettes that I mentioned today are some of your favorites. Do we have anything in common? Also, if you have any other suggestions for my next top 10 favorite blah 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 blah, let me know what category I should do, and if I do have a top 10 in that category, I will definitely film it for you guys, so leave them down below. Just leave everything down below. But anyway, that is it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy watching, be sure to give this video a thumbs up for me. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and that is it. I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!